Hello. Well, I've been sewing a lot more since the pandemic started. If you have a body form that's the same as yours, it's like, oh, I can just put some fabric on there and drape it, and there we go. Hey everybody, it's Abby. Today is a little different. I'm going to be answering the 21 questions for CosTube's 2021 21 Questions Challenge. We have CoSy, the CosTube Symposium, coming up in August, and I am going to be doing a couple videos for that. I'll be making a non-stretch glove tutorial and a stretch glove tutorial. I thought it'd be kind of a fun thing to do for that. So today I'm just going to be answering some questions. Let's see what we got here. So the first question is, what is your favorite genre of costuming? So for me, lately in the last year, it's been Edwardian. But in the past, I've done cosplay for, oh gosh, over 12 years, I think now. And I usually focused on superhero costuming, and that usually ended up being spandex suits. So that's kind of what my past has been. But recently it's been historical costuming, and Edwardian, it seems to be my favorite of that series. So what originally got you into costuming, cosplay, living history, etc.? Well, I made costumes as a kid, but I didn't really know it was called cosplay or anything. It was just really quick, sewn together things for Halloween and that kind of thing. And then my brothers, about 12 or so years ago, were going to SacreCon in Seattle, and they're like, hey, do you want to come? And I'm like, ooh, I could make a costume. So I made Twilight Princess Zelda, and I've kind of been costuming ever since. What are your favorite materials to work with? Currently, I really love silks and natural materials. They're actually really fun to sew, and they flow really well, and I just really like how they look. But I do tend to like most fabrics, and I tend to like to find the sales and the cheaper fabrics, so it doesn't always tend to be natural fabrics, especially if it's for a cosplay or costume that I'm going to wear a lot less. I have been erring towards silks and natural fibers for some of my historical costumes and some of the dresses I've made and stuff, just because I really liked how they looked. But I also got sales, so there's that. Who do you look up to? Who taught you your crafts? Well, my mom taught me the basics of hand sewing and sewing on the machine. Really, I was self-taught for the rest of it. I mean, my mom did teach me the basics when I was about, I know I learned the sewing machine when I was about 10, but I know I was hand sewing and cross-stitching before that. So I was probably 6, I don't know, 7. I don't remember. I just remember doing crafts a lot, and hand sewing was where I started. But when my mom started teaching quilt squares to the neighbors' kids, I learned the sewing machine at the same time. So that was good. That was my start. I didn't really take off until years later, but I did do a lot of sewing as a kid. Which of your projects are you the proudest of? For me, the more recent Edwardian dresses, especially the green silk dress that I made for Anne of Green Gables. Also, whenever I've done embroidery on dresses, I made Circe. I did some hand embroidery for that. My couture embroidered dress, which was a really fun project but took forever. And that was the precursor to my wedding dress, which wasn't embroidered, but it has layers and layers of stuff, and I haven't been able to show it to anyone yet because of the pandemic, and I'm kind of excited to finally wear it when that is coming soon. So you know. What project taught you the most? Well, it's hard to say. I've learned so much with each of my projects. Most recently, I learned to make corsets and stays for historical costumes. That was within the last year. And all the research that's involved with those costumes is just very, very intense. There's a lot of rabbit holes you have to go down to understand where you learn all the layers of the costumes. You can take a pattern from the fabric store and just use that, but if you really want to go in depth researching the historical, the truly historical layers, you have to kind of do a lot of research and then edit the craft store patterns to match. But for the most part, the craft store patterns actually work pretty well because they exude the silhouette that you need without having to worry about whether it's historically accurate or not. But I think half the fun for me is the historically accurate part. So it's really up to whoever is sewing, really. So really, I've learned a lot and I have a lot more to learn. That's the answer to that question. Drape, draft, or commercial pattern. Really depends on the project. I've done all of it. When I was learning, I preferred to use patterns, but a lot of the times a pattern wouldn't exist. So for my spandex suits, I had to start with using math and a blog I found. So that was definitely drafting. When I don't have a pattern that I can edit to make it look right, like my recent Ever After project, I did drafting for that. And I have draped for like my embroidered dress and my wedding dress. I draped a pattern for that, and I've done that a few times just because sometimes it's easier if you have a body form that's the same as yours. It's like, oh, I can just put some fabric on there and drape it and there we go. I don't know. It really depends on the project and your comfort level. Are you team cutout or team trace? Pattern paper pieces. Well, I'm definitely team cut. I don't want to have even more pattern pieces laying around. I have been known to trace when it comes to making multiple patterns because you have to change things and stuff, but for the most part, if I'm just doing small edits on a pattern, I'll cut out, like a commercial pattern, I'll cut out the pattern and then I will do the edits on the fly and not trace it. So a lot of the times I do have to do edits on the fly, like because I'm tall. So I'll cut down the line and add bits in. But I really just use the pattern as is because really you could go get the pattern again if you really needed it, but I'm not going to be sharing the patterns with people usually, so why not cut it out? That's my reasoning. So pins or pattern weights? I'm mostly pins. I use pattern weights when I don't want to poke holes, like leather, fake leather, that kind of thing. Or if I'm like really lazy and don't want to put a whole bunch of pins in the project, I'll put pattern weights down. But I use whatever's laying around. I don't have actual pattern weights. Which era or genre would you still like to make a costume of? Well, I've started loving 1890s dresses a lot because I've been watching The Nevers, and all those costumes I would love. So there's a lot of really cool stuff in there, and I've noticed that 1890s and Edwardian are very similar in some ways. They have different underpinnings that I could make, but I could kind of edit the stuff I already have to make it look a little 1890s, but I could also like make new bodices to work with my walking skirts to make things 1890s. So I don't know, seemed like an interesting era to do. I also want to make a costume from Lord of the Rings, so medieval like. Yeah, I always have tons of plans, so I will figure something new out usually. Biggest sewing crafting pet peeve? Well, remember how I said earlier I cut out pattern pieces? I hate cutting out pattern pieces. That's the part at the beginning of every new project, and it takes so much time. and it really blocks me from starting new projects sometimes. So it's just one of those things that's necessary for a new project, but it's the more difficult part for me because I'm sitting there using paper scissors and cutting out my pattern pieces on the couch, and my dogs want to get at the pattern pieces, and it's just like, it's not the funnest. So, how has the pandemic changed how you sew and craft? Well, I've been sewing a lot more since the pandemic started. I don't know, I didn't have any events going on, and I realized I had new stuff I wanted to sew, and I finally caught up on all of the projects that I've been meaning to do, which I still have a few left. It seemed like perfect timing to start like historical costuming, so it worked out for me. I've just been sewing furiously all pandemic. It's kind of funny. What did you learn in the past year that you are most proud of? Well, I didn't start historical costuming until the pandemic happened. So everything involved with that, like corsets and underpinnings and the historical accurate stuff. I mean, I'd done a few of those things like costume corsets and some petticoats and that kind of stuff before, but I hadn't really researched into the historically accurate arena of things. And honestly, I had been avoiding Regency stuff for a very long time because I thought it'd be really unflattering on me, and then I started making it and it wasn't, so it turned out for the best. Most satisfying technique? I would say hand sewing and embroidery. Hand sewing is just really relaxing for me, and embroidery is a lead off of that because it is also hand embroidery for me because I don't have an embroidery machine. But the planning can be kind of monotonous, but once you sit down with a hand sewing project, you can just zone out and feel really peaceful and just sew and watch TV, and it just kind of, it relaxes me. So that's kind of my thing. Scissors or rotary blade? Well, for me, mostly scissors, unless it's quilts or bias tape, where I'd like a straighter line and quicker. I only recently got a rotary blade. I've been using scissors for a really long time. Rotary blade has been super useful, but I don't necessarily like using it for projects where I can just use scissors to cut out. I don't know, I'm a little weird maybe. Let's see, do you have any sewing assistants pets? Yes, I do. I have the two little dogs that like to interrupt all the time and make noises, and you can always hear them in the background on my voiceovers, and Diana likes to sit in my lap for some reason. So yes, Diana and Bean, or Tia Beanie. Whew! That's them. They really do like to help a lot. Oh God. Do you sew over your pins or take them out as you go? I remove as I go because I like to do the perpendicular ones, and you can't really sew over those. And I like the bigger pins with the heads on them, so it'd be really bad to sew over those. You'd break your needle a lot. So I definitely take them out. Machine sewing, barefoot, socks, or shoes on the pedal? Well, whatever I'm wearing, really, which is usually slippers or socks, and I have gone barefoot on the pedal before. It's a little harder to barefoot the pedal because it feels weird, but slippers or socks, it's pretty easy. So I think I have only used shoes a couple times, and I think I have actually sewn in heels before because I didn't want to take them off, but it's really whatever I'm wearing. Tea, coffee, or chocolate? Well, I would say tea all year round, and then hot chocolate in the colder weathers. So yeah, that's me. Love my tea. What do you like to watch or listen to while sewing? Half the time I forget to put something on, but when I do put something on, it's usually like a historical show, and it's not always the historical projects I'm working on, but a lot of the times I'll be interested in the era that I'm currently working on, and I'll put that on. But I don't know, things like the Nevers and Jane Austen shows and Poldark and that kind of stuff have been really fun to watch. What are your goals, plans moving forward? I have so many plans. Quite a few Regency items, accessories, clothes, that kind of thing. I'm also looking at maybe doing 1890s late Victorian, like I said earlier. I have a quilt I need to finish. My Jen from IT Crowd vest needs to get done, which will probably get done shortly so I can finally have that costume done. A poofy green tulle skirt, which I might actually make a corset to go along with because that would be really cute. Might make a fairy costume to go along with that too. But it'll just be like a skirt to wear in normal life. It'll be kind of fun. So I'm going to the Fabric District in LA for the first time ever. And I'm just very excited. And I'll likely find some new projects to work on when I'm down there because I will be going crazy over the fabrics. And I think I will film a little bit down there as well, so you'll get to see some of the stuff I see as I go. I don't know, I'm just really excited because I keep hearing how awesome the fabric districts are in different areas, and this will be the first time getting out during the pandemic too, since fully vaccinated. So it'll be a very fun experience, I think. Thank you for joining me today as I went through my CosTube 21 questions for 2021. So stay tuned for more of my Ever After videos coming soon. I know I've got a few more left to put out, and I'm sure I will have more stuff in the future as well because I will be getting new fabric and stuff. So happy sewing! She is a little pooper. Come here, baby. Come. Okay. Come here. Okay. Hey, say hi to the camera. Say hi to the people. Oh, I see.